And her opponent from China, CHENXINGTONG!
Tong is in the house. CHENXINGTONG returns, and it's Grand Smash final time for her. Remember, the last time we saw her in a WTT final was in the finals, going down there narrowly to Wong Man Yu in the finals, and now they face one another, both with a win at least against the other in terms of their head-to-head rivalry here, and that's what makes this such a compelling one. Remember, we're playing the best of 7 and have been, of course, in the latter stages of this from the quarterfinals onwards. Every chance this could go very, very deep. In terms of the tail of the table, it's 2-1 to CHENXINGTONG. But there has been a win for Kuaiman. She was the first, actually, to score a victory. And as I said at the top of the show today, each time one of these has beaten the other in an event, they've gone on to win the title. And that was the case in Bangkok and Taiyuan for Tong and in Muscat for Kuaiman when she did it. So that's a compelling little subplot to this one.
For Kuaiman. Blue, turn won the toss. Turn service.
So that's how that sets up. Well, Fraser Riley's been patiently waiting to give us his take on this one. You can talk us through the setting for this one, the head-to-head, the tail of the table. What excites you about this semi-final, Fraser?
Hey, John, great to be with you here at the Singapore Smash. Kuaiman is just so dynamic, as we see our umpire here, Amanda Leong. She's 21 years of age, she's 15 in the world, soon to be a top 10 star after this event. And she's up against a very solid right-handed player in CHENXINGTONG who has a lethal backhand, especially. And yeah, even though CHENXINGTONG is a formidable player, having seen Opina Hayata narrowly in the last round, I actually expect Kuaiman to get through this to reach her first Smash final.
There's a call for you. The last of those titles for Tong came at the WTT contender Taiyuan back in 2024. Here, it's been progress against the Hong Kong player, then of course in Portugal, Jenny Xiao, Bernie Sersch, and then an absolutely mighty tussle to get past Hina Hayata 4-3 in the 7th in the quarterfinal. So she's got what it takes in terms of resolve, as well as all that game we've seen, the 4th-ranked player here. But again, you know, we had this chat, didn't we, about Kuaiman? We were talking about form players, and of course you don't overlook Xia, who's just consistently imperious and supreme. But relatively, you said, you think Kuaiman is playing above herself, as it were, to such a level this week that she's an eye-catcher.
Yeah, I mean, the way that she saw off Wong Man Yu, the defending champion here, was mind-boggling. You know, there's so much to play for. Both have a similar number of WTT titles. I think CHENXINGTONG has one more. Here's a look at how Kuaiman got through, facing off against the tricky penholder Fu Yu. Hannah Goddard, that was 12-10 in game 4. Very, very promising youth player from Egypt. There's the result against Wang. And Zhu Yiling, amazing. I mean, beating Karano and Odo.
We've seen so much of her. 4 hours, 54 minutes spent on court, ahead of his men's doubles final, which seen Lin Sudong had already spent 5 hours and 9 minutes. Those two, of course, teaming up in the mixed doubles as well. So we've seen so much of her, and the amount of game time she's had has just seen her fine-tune her game. Prize money, of course, lots of money up for grabs right now, and to get into that final comes with a hefty $37,500. $75,000 is the prize for men and for women in these singles draws here. But this is also about rivalry, and maybe more than that in terms of a changing of the guard with the rise of Kuaiman to prominence here. Wow, 81% of the vote, the fan vote at WorldTableTennis.com. There's a talking point in a moment.
Love all. One love.
I'm not entirely sure if Tong would be that aware of fan votes or anything else, but I wonder if she's got a point to prove here against a young player who's been making a lot of headlines. And that's why.
Well, look, CHENXINGTONG on her day beats anybody, and we saw that last edition of the Singapore Smash. She defeated Chin Ying-sha, who she also beat at the finals in Fukuoka. But stylistically, this seems to favour Kuaiman. He's the best lefty in the world right now. And someone who...
But given what we've seen here this week, yeah.
And inside the table, so strong, her touch play. We were talking about how she's such a old head on young shoulders, so wise, the decision making.
3-1.
Couldn't get out of the way of that one though. Xingtong going to the body, crossing her over.
That's a lovely shot there from Chen. Little dribble of the net there.
6 years the difference in age between these two. Tongtong's 27 now. She went so wide to get that back, and then is able to just slide one past Tongtong. That's the quality of this left-hander.
Manoeuvred wide straight from the serve and plays with slow spin to create hesitation out of position, and a shot there that could give her more time to come back to the neutral space. That was really, really clever from Kuaiman. Nice idea from CHENXINGTONG to serve wide to open the table, but then not enough from her on that third ball.
4-3.
Yeah, great movement around the table there from Kuaiman. Almost effortless.
It looks so. Very seamless. Unlike many players who move quite jaggedly, she never looks rushed, and that's because of how she reads the game, her table awareness. She just always seems there. Like Neo in The Matrix.
Oh, and that's something she does so well. Back on the forehand. But not just getting bat on ball, directing it for the win. If you're going to be hypercritical about Kuaiman's game, is there an area that she will have looked at and said, yeah, need to be better here?
Well, I think like basically every top player, you know, the transition from forehand to backhand is more difficult than the transition from backhand to forehand. Kuaiman's very good in that area, but that's the area that she's a bit vulnerable sometimes. You can see CHENXINGTONG working well in combinations there. Middle, wide. Tucking her up, stitching her, then taking her wide, stretching her.
Yeah, and let's talk about Tongtong now and the experience that she brings to this, the ability in-game to adjust and adapt and see something that's going to profit and benefit her. You can't do much about that, though. We've seen maybe 3 examples already of that from Kuaiman.
This has been her standout shot. This pivot forehand that she plays cross table, right off the bounce. She can open the wrist, fade it a little bit as well when she wants to. It's just something to behold, that shot.
And we're going to behold it plenty more by the looks of things here, because she goes again.
Well, that one off a push, so she not only had to transfer her weight forward, but come up the back of the ball slightly more. Didn't look like it was any more difficult for her, though.
8-6.
Well, she's mixing it up on the serve there, Tongtong, but not to any great effect in this instance. Trails by 2 and receives. That is so, so beautiful.
CHENXINGTONG has now become a passenger in this first game. It's a little fade flick. Open racket face, or fairly anyway. Contacting the ball centrally on the bat.
And why wouldn't you smile, and why wouldn't you cheer and clap your hands at this?
She just can't miss jump. That's the simplest way to put it right now.
I was just diving into some of these serve stats, and I'll come back in a minute when Guaiman's serving again.
11-6.
She's been very, very good, and so good in fact that off the back of that she takes out the first game. Brilliantly played by the 21-year-old. And there is somebody who was brushed aside really by Suning Shah last night, Georgia. And of course Suning Shah will be, you presume, in the minds of both of these players in terms of what might happen should they make it to the final, but they've got business to attend to right now. And for Tong Tong, well, she's coming up against, as we said, a player who is seemingly blazing a trail here towards something special in Singapore. Guaiman leads by 1. So there's going to be another autograph session in Smash Park. If you're in Singapore, get along and catch up with two of the Team China stars, Wong Zhujiang and Chen Yuanyu. Going to be signing for the first 100 fans, limited to 100 fans there from 5 p.m. at the Smash Park down here just outside the Infinity Arena. Meanwhile, women's singles semi-final action. Guaiman serving, leads by 1-0. Now to those serve stats going into this match, points 1 on serve. She was second only to Xia with a ridiculous 69%. Mandy, or Guaiman as we've been calling her, is running at 59%. Points 1 on serve going into this.
1-all.
Which won't surprise you.
No. And you know, we talk about the best servers in the world, and do you know what, John? They're often not the most flamboyant or artistic serves in the world.
2-1.
They're not serves that are meant to win the point outright. You can see that if the serve has the surprise factor, but they're serves that just limit the options of the opponent and play into the plan of the third ball.
And it's a stat that, of course, extends to all-round play as
1-3.
well. Not just specific to the serve, because it's what comes next.
That's right.
And her all-round game has been that good. But Tong Tong's made a better start now to this second game.
Yeah, similar to the first game here. CHENXINGTONG getting lead of a couple of points.
1-4.
Should be disappointed with that. Guaiman having chosen a really good angle for the previous shot.
First pendulum serve. But look how smoothly Guaiman blocks, sponges up the incoming pace. She keeps the bat high, she stays low.
Smooth is the word. That was effortless.
Minute bouncing just to stay engaged in the right areas on the balls of her feet. Very different from a lot of Japanese or certain European players who are quite noticeably bouncing in between each and every shot.
You've got me looking at her footwork now.
4-2.
Yeah, for any fans out there that are wanting to improve, check out the footwork of the pros. Just look at different things, hone in on different things at different times in the match. So it's fascinating. You can see there with the receive, she comes in with her left leg, gets right back out in case the long ball comes. But CHENXINGTONG here testing Guaiman in the right areas. Let's see more serves into that midriff or into the forehand.
kept it short, but when it opened up, it's Kwaiman who emerges with a point that just trims it to a 2-point deficit now.
That was a dance, wasn't it? In and out. Looked like it was going to be a point finisher, that CHENXINGTONG forehand. Great read from Kwai. Now with 2 serves to come.
3-6.
Well, she surrenders one of them, and it's still advantage Tong Tong in this second game. She's playing the long game.
Player, please play.
Smart.
6-4.
The foremotion of the serve made it look like Kwaiman was going to play the reverse pendulum. Instead goes top spin tight to forehand, and CHENXINGTONG misread the serve. Nicely timed forehand flick through the back of the ball.
7-4.
Tried a strawberry there. Saw your eyebrows raised there, John.
Yeah, saw her coming around sideways on that ball, and wasn't to be though. That's where she's so good.
5-7.
Somehow 2 shots in a row, not playing from the optimum position, but she got them back and it was enough.
I feel like the beauty is in the simplicity of this Kwaiman forehand block. She's got barely any time to work with. How is she managing to block it so consistently well? The racket angle is correct and it stays out in front and she stays low. A lot of players habitually raise a little bit when they're nervous in table tennis. She stays low.
5-8.
But it's still Tong Tong who has the 3-point advantage. She's edging towards leveling things up here in this semi-final in the Infinity Arena.
Eight, 6.
I feel as though CHENXINGTONG has done a good job here at acknowledging she's not gonna, for the most part, beat Kwaiman in the open play. So she's trying to keep things uncomfortable in the receive game and cause hesitation by slowing things down a bit, actually. Tries to heavy spin it, but it was a float ball. Well placed.
And now the 21-year-old is just edging back to within 1.
Right into that right pocket. Suffocating play.
Again, that little dance, and now this is a worry for Tong Tong, who has surrendered her advantage as Kwaiman prepares to serve with a chance to take a meaningful lead at crunch time in this game.
Nine, 8.
Which she does, and this is beginning to look ominous for the woman in blue. Yeah, there's that big shift at this key time in the game. 6 of the last 8 points
Left.
going to Kwaiman.
9, 8.
Sensational. Out wide. Nothing you can do about that, Fraser, is there, if you're CHENXINGTONG?
Not at all, and despite Kwaiman coming back into it, we haven't seen any kind of innovation from CHENXINGTONG, and she's paying the price for it here.
Well, if it is passivity, dare we say, well, it's left her staring at 2 game points for her rival. And that time it was a far more guarded, cautious approach from Kwaiman, but whatever she tries seems to work these days, and she takes out that game, and that could be hugely important because Tong Tong looked as if she was in command.
Yeah, even more so then. She stayed in front for longer, but then the Kwaiman flow state began.
That's nice.
And she just couldn't miss again. Just gets that streak.
The flow state in the city-state that is Singapore. This is turning out to be a fabulous second home for Kuaiman, who's now taken it 11-6, 11-8. She's in control of this semi-final. Take a little look now. That one took a dramatic swing at the end of that game, Fraser. So actually it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when you analyse Kuaiman's performance. Obviously, when she gets that forehand into play, we saw more of it in the first game. That's when it gets problematic for CHENXINGTONG.
Absolutely right, John. And what I was especially fascinated with in that game was how we saw more push-to-push rallies. Basically every one of which Kuaiman ended up winning. She's almost teasing, taunting CHENXINGTONG to spin first, so that she can then, over the table with those magnificent blocks, just hold the table and then find a fade.
But it looks as if CHENXINGTONG has got a game plan. It's worked. We've seen her leading in both of the games so far, more comprehensively, of course, in the second. But somehow she has to see it through.
One all.
You go there at your peril, because that's what happens.
Oh, it's just beautiful. She makes work very, very easy for the ball kids, Kuaiman.
Not this time. That was just not there for the hitting. She wanted to.
Very unusual again. Another push-to-push rally. But the chop block obviously came there. Well played, and CHENXINGTONG used Kuaiman's backspin against her. High enough to tempt her in, but not long by any stretch of the imagination.
This time she decided to open things up, and Kuaiman emerges, not surprisingly, victorious.
Asking questions of that forehand recovery. She has to try and abbreviate her strokes, CHENXINGTONG, but it's such harassing play from Kuai. And a bit of frustration there, I think.
Yeah, she'd hit a really good deep long ball there previously.
Not obviously intending to hit it into Kuaiman, but she just tried to unleash that bit of impatience brewing here, I feel, from CHENXINGTONG.
Yeah, an apology there. One thing we never see from her is her looking ruffled. We've known that down the years. Tremendous temperament, CHENXINGTONG, but even she's being put to a stress test here.
5-2.
At the moment, she's struggling to cope with it. That was a bit more liberating, able to just open up and swing a bit back off the table.
Different gravy.
3-6.
She's a different class to CHENXINGTONG when the balls are played down the sort of middle of the table. And it's interesting, you know, CHENXINGTONG tried a wide serve so early on, and it was well dealt with on the initial occasion. Now,
she's taken 13 of 17 points now. When you say different class, how so? Just more shots, more destructive shots?
Yeah, and quicker to recover. I do feel as though CHENXINGTONG serving wide earlier on is the better approach, but she has to be quicker to recover after her service because of the quality of Kuaiman's receive.
3-7-4.
Yeah, this time it goes the way of Xingtong, who badly needed that to stay within 3, to stay in with a chance. But for the first time, we've seen her trailing in a game, and that doesn't augur well, given what has gone before. Trailing, I should say, at a relatively early stage, or even a midway stage in a game, because it's 4 points now. And given the fact that Kuaiman has had a habit of closing games out with a run of points, this is a concern for Tong Tong. This is remarkable, really. You spoke about different class, and with all due respect to Tong Tong, that exemplified what you've been saying.
We're going to have to see more from her straight from the serve and receive. It's going to be a bigger risk if she continues to play within her usual realm. She has to really take the game in a more aggressive and direct approach now to Kuaiman. Otherwise, this could be a 4-zip.
9-6.
Yeah, and she's just processing and learning as she goes. Long serve, okay, didn't give her what she wanted, but she still has 3 points to play with.
Oh, that time Kuaiman pushing that long side spin, back spin serve, the bottle challenge serve, we call it.
Yeah, Adam was explaining that last night on commentary, into an imaginary bottle in the corner of the table there. 2 in a row she's dropped there, though, Kuaiman, uncharacteristically.
Time out, Kuaiman.
Oh, and that might explain this. Because by her standards, surrendering a couple of points on serve is not really what she's about. And it's an opportunity now, maybe, for Xingtong to come back with something different, as you advocate. So they're on their own, of course, in terms of that timeout. Over the last 6 months, let's check in there on highlighting Kuaiman, the WTT contender winner in Muscat. Otherwise, though, of course, familiar faces there, including the woman that she removed, and then star contender Doha was another success for her. What we don't see there, of course, is Chen Xingtong, who is her opponent here, who is being put to the sword, quite frankly, here, Fraser Riley, in this first of our 2 women's singles semi-finals. Can you see anything coming out of this timeout to suggest things might change?
Well, certainly possible here with 2 serves, but you know, Chen Xingtong has to try and go for the kill earlier in the rally here. I think a long serve would be a good option at this point. Or, as I said, something wider. This Kuaiman is just finding it too easy. Chen Xingtong's playing it within the table parameters.
3 game points now as she serves to stay in the 3rd game.
10-8.
She's that good that whenever Chen Xingtong wins a point, it just feels like it's Kuaiman's mistake.
Yeah, now Kuaiman dropped her last 2 points on serve, but that's an aberration, if you will. Now she has the ball in her hand and a chance to move into a commanding 3-game lead in this best of 7 semi-final. Oh, and she's missed it, to the collective shock of just about everybody in the Infinity Arena.
It's a surprisingly shallow ball there from Chen Xingtong, who wasn't fully behind the shot when she played it. Threw off Kuaiman.
Let's 10-9.
Brilliantly done there from Tong-Tong, who's saved 3 game points there to give her just a glimmer of renewed hope. What a time to pick up 6 of the last 8 points. It's gone against the narrative.
Yeah, massively.
But she's back.
11-10.
It's a nice service from CHENXINGTONG. A lot of topspin on the shovel. Kuaiman didn't receive it as strong as she probably would have liked, but then quickly tells herself, right, I need to get over this.
Another game point then. 4th. And this time she serves.
$11-all.
But can't complete the mission. 11-all, and this is the moment in the match, isn't it, really? This is the moment where Tong-Tong has to win this one and build a comeback.
Yeah.
Or it's looking very, very gloomy.
Even off the net. Oh, my goodness.
12-11.
Didn't miss by much, but it's game point, Kuaiman again.
Even off the net, she can still calibrate. Recalibrate, in fact. Had to meet the ball at a slightly different point. Unbelievable.
But you better believe it, because she is on a roll. It's 3 games to love, and it looks as if Kuaiman is marching towards the final here at Singapore Smash 2025. Is there anything CHENXINGTONG can do about this? It's looking increasingly unlikely. Kuaiman has been so impressive here once again, as she has a commanding 3 games to love lead against CHENXINGTONG in the first of our 2
game.
single
Kuaiman to
semi-finals.
serve. Love all.
Just to remind you, after this one here in the Infinity Arena, this session continues with the #1 in the world, Sun Ying-Sha, against Wang Yidi.
Love 1.
Just flat batted that one there to provide something a little bit different, Tong-Tong. Just being held by our umpire as a ball needs retrieving, and it's retrieved.
Love.
Yeah, she's done well at times here, CHENXINGTONG, getting Kuaiman into that middle. Forehand, nicely played backhand as well. Precise.
2-1.
Great shot selection. She was slightly surprised there. The world number 15.
Yeah, that premeditated play came to nothing. But again, you know, it's trending towards a strong start to the game for CHENXINGTONG. We've seen that already. It's what happens next that's been the problem.
1-4.
And as with any adversarial sport, you can't just focus on one because the other player has their role in it too. Has Tong Tong become too passive, or has it just been that Guaiman has absorbed a couple of lost early points and come back with the answers?
I think it's a personality thing actually more than tactical. And
Four,
you know,
two.
Guaiman is so impassive with her personality, but so skillful, you know, with her ability, that even when Chen Xintong's in front, she still feels uncomfortable. It's almost like when she gets in front, there's a disbelief that she is, and that's testament to how amazing this 21-year-old is.
So you're talking
4-3.
about powers, mental powers really, mental strength beyond her years maybe even there. It's a great character trait to have that, but it's still a 1-point lead for the server.
4-3.
Nicely done. First time really we've seen her flick that one across the table and have no reply from Guaiman.
Her backhand is outstanding, Chen Xintong. It's a different type of backhand that Guaiman looks for. Guaiman's is more of a probing backhand. She favours the forehand, and she knows if she plays the backhand too powerfully that she'll have probably less time to play the forehand, but she still has that ability to crack a counter if the ball's soft enough. It's obviously more compact.
Oh, brilliantly done. That was all set up by that ball that was deep, deep, deep into the corner from Tong Tong. Pushed into a position from which she was able to execute that.
Six, 5.
This is where it gets important. It's just tightened up mid-game once again.
Six, all.
And I was about to say, can Tong Tong go on this time and take command of things?
Well, this is the third game here that we've seen Chen Xintong establish a lead, and again, referring to the flow state of Guaiman, it is almost immediately diffused. And is this the moment now where Guaiman will advance through?
6, 7.
Yeah, it's as if she gets triggered into just lifting the game a little bit. Something we've seen from her mixed doubles partner, Lin Sedong, a lot during the course of this week as well. There are just moments when he goes on a little bit of a run, just ups it. Oh, really well rallied from Tong Tong there. High quality performance on both wings.
Did very well there to play that parallel forehand after Guaiman hit the net on that forehand fade. This is good work from the world number 4.
You have to keep reminding yourself that, don't you? World number 4 against the 15th seeded player here. That's how rapidly this dynamic is shifting.
Yeah, she was 3, highest that she's been very recently.
So good, so quickly into position, Guaiman.
Well, I think when it comes to Guaiman, it's a matter of when and if. I think she could be a world number 1. I think that she's going to come for the throne here.
Given the aura of invincibility that Suning Shah seems to be giving off every time she sets foot in the Infinity Arena, that's a big call.
Yes, and with 13 WTT senior titles, Guaiman has some catching up to do, but I think she's en route. Wow.
But she's being held up here because it's a couple of game points for Chen Xintong. We've said this before. It is an absolute must-win situation for her, trailing by 3 games.
They're both just gliding around there. Wonderful point.
This is the chance. Does she take it? Oh, and she finally does, but boy, she had to work hard for that. Kuaiman just wouldn't go away, but she is beaten. She is vulnerable. She is human. She's beaten there. It's 3-1, and this semi-final extends now into, well, the area of possibility, at least, for Chen Xintong. 11-8 in the fourth to get into this, to get something on the board. She trails 3-1, Chen Xintong, and has to plot a long path to a win. Well, that was really hard fought, wasn't it? We're just combining a heat map in terms of where the ball has been going and the actual placement of those balls. Chen Xintong got there narrowly in that fourth game. And she did a few more things right, didn't she, Fraser, than she had been doing hitherto?
That's right. I think her placement was better. She recovered quicker.
Love all.
She received better.
And she believed, didn't she, as well?
She did. And she will continue to.
Yeah, you don't get to 4 in the world without having some belief and ability. And, of course, the form that's taken her to titles. But it's a long road back here in Singapore.
I can't help but notice the reaction of the youth players, of even, you know, the decorated coaches like Ma Lin, Wang Hao. When Kuaiman plays, they're looking at her as though they know that she's going to cause a serious splash in the world of table tennis.
All right then, well, how serious? I mean, you've just said, you've made the call that she's going to dethrone Sun Ying-sha. That's a big call in itself. It's not like she's come from nowhere, though, is it?
No, not at all. She's been training hard in the shadows at Beijing, the National Centre. There's a reason why she's Lin Chidong's mixed doubles partner. There's a reason why she's getting selected for these events and winning, you know, the star contender season opener in Doha.
And to your point, you're saying that the coaches and the youth players, they're seeing this. They're seeing that in camp as well, aren't they?
They're seeing it in camp. It's unsurprising. I mean, beating Wang Manyu is unsurprising for Kuaiman. It's unsurprising. The ranking can be misleading. The history of a player can be misleading. You've got to look at it from a broader perspective in terms of timing. And her time is coming.
4-2.
And if she keeps this up, the final is coming as well, because it's a 2-point lead. She started with a little bit of urgency. Something that's a bit surprising about this is the relatively low serve percentage. I spoke earlier on, she came into this with close to 60% points won on serve anyway. But she's down at 40 in her opponent. Tong Tong's down at 30 right now, which is understandable given the score.
5-2.
But she's working to improve those numbers. And if she continues to do so, she'll put herself in a position to get this one finished up in the Infinity Arena.
Three, 5.
Beautiful, beautiful. No showing where she's going there. Bent the wrist upon the contact point. Just to talk about percentages as well against teammates. Chen Xintong 43%, Kuaiman at 56. Obviously, Chen Xintong with a bigger sample size, but just another stat that sort of shows that Kuaiman isn't flustered when she plays against players who are more familiar of her.
Six, 5.
Yeah, and just following what you were talking about earlier on, and intrigued by, I've just had a little sneak peek at the head-to-head in WTT terms between Sun Ying-Sha and Kuaiman. It's 2-0 right now. The last meeting in the China Smash round of 32, a 3-1 win for Sha there.
6 all.
Of course, they had a meeting in Singapore back in 2022. That was 3-love to the current world #1. But times have changed, haven't they? In terms of Kuaiman's accelerated form. 6 all now in the 5th here at Singapore Smash 2025. Things heating up.
Six, 7.
Another reminder for you, it is Sun Ying-Sha against Wang Yidi to come in the second of the women's singles semi-finals. Up next on this table.
Oh yeah.
7 all.
She struggled a little bit with this serve that CHENXINGTONG introduced at the start of the 3rd game. This shovel serve with a bit of top. It's tough to know how to meet the ball with that one. You can't touch it with the forehand to trap the spin because it's towards the backhand side and it opens the table, and it's tough to flick.
7, 8.
Because it hurries onto you a bit, or the movement?
No, but with the shovel serve, it actually stops for a split second longer in front of you. A lot of side on it. You're not coming through the back of the ball, more so around the side. So there's no kick. If there is kick, it goes sideways, not forwards.
Oh, brilliant.
9, 7.
She's at this. CHENXINGTONG, emboldened by taking the last game. She now has a glimmer of a chance in this one.
Awesome.
That's the best
Player.
hitting we've seen from her throughout this entire match.
You've got to imagine
Player.
at this speed, a
Yellow
lot of
card,
it is
time delay,
about
Kuai.
the... Oh,
Yellow
hang on a
to
minute.
turn, time delay.
Both
of them.
yellow carded for a delay. So
9, 7.
now they play. An odd one.
7.
10-7. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Maybe when this one gets done. It could be done now because it's 3 game points to bring us back to 2-3, by the way, for Tong Tong. This is with 1. Oh, this just took an interesting, dramatic plot twist and turn.
If another player is yellow carded, they will lose a point.
Yeah.
If it's 0-0 when that happens, by the way, the other player will just win a point.
Did she award the first yellow to Kuaiman and then a second to Tong Tong, or was it simultaneous?
It was simultaneous, both carded.
11, 8.
Well, it's done as a game, and that's just an interesting little twist and a wrinkle on things here. But this got a whole lot more interesting because it's now a 1-game match. It's 2-3. She wins back-to-back, CHENXINGTONG. Is she back in this one? Is Kuaiman rattled, ruffled? Is she allowing her older opponent, her experienced opponent, back into this now? 11-8, 11-8 in the 4th and the 5th. This suddenly took a turn. World #1 time, the Sha show is going to be up against Wang Yidi next up. And it's not to discount Wang Yidi, who of course a fabulous player in her own right, but given the form we've seen from Sun Ying-Sha, it's always good, but it's been absolutely dazzling thus far this week in Singapore. They are being held a little bit longer now, because a semi-final that looked as if it might be done in straight games has suddenly turned into a 3-2 advantage for 21-year-old Kuaiman, who's just feeling a little bit of pressure in a way that she hasn't done in any of the doubles or singles matches we've seen in recent times here in Singapore. Have you got your head around the yellow cards and potential impact of that just now, Fraser?
Yeah, well, it'll be hanging there a little bit. Look, these players are amazing at just sort of brushing that aside and getting on with things, but in terms of why they both got carded, obviously taking too much time, and that's understandable with the fact that both players have tactically responded well. It's tense. It's a pivotal moment. Both players know that. I mean, I know before that, the players were waiting for the ball kids to get seated after collecting the ball. I don't know if that was part of it, and if the umpire hadn't accounted for that, but anyway. Kuaiman here just requesting a new ball.
Yeah, these are stoppages that aren't going to be very useful for Kuaiman, you'd have thought, in terms of the flow state you were talking about.
With many players, I think, the longer this is drawn out, the more it would affect them. But with Kuaiman, I don't think that'll affect her. I think she'll be able to deal with it. But again, a good start from CHENXINGTONG. I think part of it as well here is that, in 3 of the first 4 games, CHENXINGTONG got off to the better lead and Kuai was able to come back. Maybe now the lefty doubts that she'll be able to sustain that. She's trying harder to get a better start, but in doing so, just forcing a couple of errors.
Love 4.
Love 4. Are we seeing cracks finally in the Kuaiman game? Tongtong's on a roll. 13 points, taking out the last 16 available.
Love
and
5.
There goes another one. What is happening here, Fraser? Have you put the commentator's curse on her?
Essentially. Seeing a bit of a capitulation.
Without doing anything overtly flamboyant, Tongtong is now in control of things. 6 love, with a chance now to pull level at 3-all, having looked down and out. You're going to have to start reaching into those memory banks of yours and think about comebacks from 3 down that you can remember in recent memory, and certainly in Grand Smash action.
1-7.
And particularly at such an advanced stage of an event as well, this semi-final time.
I can't remember a comeback from 3 down of a smash. I mean, Hadamoto against Lin Gaiyuan at the Champions at the European Summer Series. That comes to mind.
2-7.
I mean, to be honest as well, Bernie Soch against Wang Wenyu. That was nearly an insane comeback at the finals. Ruin Phyllis against Lin Wenru in Almaty.
Yeah.
This would be something else, though. Semis of a smash.
Yeah. Or is it going to happen? Well, thanks. I put you on the spot there, but, that's the measure of this. What's happened here? It's also a measure of just how good Kuaiman have been until this little blip. And this blip could continue, even though she's won that point. Still trails by 4. And now she's fighting back.
Time out. Chen.
So, Tongtong is in control of things, in control of her emotions. Of course, China against China. There's no coaches in the corner there, so they'll go back and they'll work this through themselves mentally. But this has been impressive from her because she hasn't changed a whole lot. Nothing about her demeanor has changed too much. What have you seen in terms of exploiting any weaknesses in Kuaiman's game?
I just think now it's been more of a matter of execution than anything, and Chen Qingtong's been able to act upon her instincts a little bit better than what she could before. Here's a look at the world rankings. Could see a huge bit of movement change.
What was interesting this week was we looked one after the other at the Japanese players in their own ways, all the way from Ito to Oda to Harimoto and Hayata. You felt they're playing well enough, they might have a chance to challenge the top four, but then we've seen the superiority of the Chinese pulling away. Of course, if Kuaiman were to go ahead and win this one, she's now looking at top 10 and bringing that equation into play. But that's a story for another day, because we've got something really compelling, purely in terms of match status and situation unfolding in front of us here. You'd be a brave co-commentator to call a winner right now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And I'm not gonna.
No, you don't have to, my friend.
I mean, I did at the start. I fancied Kuaiman. We saw the fan vote heavily favouring the 21-year-olds, but now it's more psychological than it was before, and it's tough to say who will show more nous at this juncture.
5-7.
If she just counts on game, Kuaiman will get home. If it gets into her head, then I take what you're saying. Tong should have the experience and the nous. And she protects what's still a 3-point cushion. She's getting closer now to leveling up.
Backhand of Kuaiman was so wide. But just slightly changing her contact point, Chen Qingtong, to play deeper, higher trajectory, loaded with top spin.
9-5.
It's been so easy to talk about the younger player here, but you've got to have so much respect for Chen Qingtong, who has weathered a storm, who's gone to the brink, and now is putting herself in an increasingly strong position.
10-5.
And it looks now as if she is going to draw level. 5 game points, remember, from 3 love down and seemingly all at sea.
6-10.
I'm just
Got
looking
every right to go for it, right?
She has. That's sort of statement finish, lottery shot. She does make those from time to time. I'm just looking for a tell here in Kuaiman's body language. She still looks like she's got the belief.
7-10.
She spent an awful lot of time playing this week. Of course, conditioning's not an issue. Just wondering about the mental side of things here in terms of any mental fatigue that might be there. She's still got 3 game points to save.
10-8.
She's working her way through that challenge. Looks pretty mentally strong here. Is Qingtong a little passive? Has she played these game points wrong, or is it just Kuaiman who's taken the initiative?
Bit of both. I mean, that serve obviously just a bit too loose, not a long serve by any means, but a bit too loose.
She's come back from 10-5 down. She's saved 5 game points. It's 10-all. This is huge from the 21-year-old.
Well, we thought the twist was the comeback, and the bigger twist may come in the 7th. There might not be a 7th now.
I wouldn't predict anything right now, but what a run she's on. Kuaiman to serve. Kuaiman to set up a chance to render a 7th unnecessary, because it's match point in the 6th. And now the pressure is piled on Tong. And she succumbs to that pressure. The Kuaiman story continues. Boy, oh boy, it took An unlikely turn here, but the fans are ecstatic. She's had a birthday party. She could yet be celebrating again as she's picked up one trophy already here, Kwaiman, and gives herself a chance now, advancing to a Grand Smash singles final.
It's a landmark result. It's a career-defining breakthrough. And this player, tipped to be legendary, has just denied a potentially legendary comeback. CHENXINGTONG did so well. Kwaiman fending her off. What an amazing match. There were interesting spells of form, of atmosphere, of expectation, of anticipation. And here we see her winning ball placement. The lefty so dynamic. Fascinating there. A lot to that wide forehand of CHENXINGTONG, stretching her across table. She made her adjustments, the world number 4.
She made her adjustments. She had to weather a storm. Can't wait to hear what she has to say about this one. Let's get back down to tableside and hear from Kwaiman.
Mandy, congratulations. What an exciting match. Things were looking great at 3-0, then 3-2 and 10-7 to CHENXINGTONG. What were you thinking at that stage? Tell us or share with us what was going through your mind.
恭喜快曼获得比赛的胜利，进入到了新加坡大满贯的女单决赛。非常精彩的表现，一上来你打得非常积极，取得了3-0的优势。后来CHENXINGTONG连追2局，在第6局时CHENXINGTONG握有3个局点，那时候心里在想什么？
我觉得首先我今天可能一上来拼得比较凶吧，但是被童姐追了2局之后也是很正常嘛，心态放得比较好。但是第6局我落后的时候其实也没有想很多吧，然后还是专注在这每一分吧。
In the first set, I played really aggressively and I played really well. After that, CHENXINGTONG came back 2 sets and I feel I have a good mentality. Even though in the 6th set I was losing 10-7, I didn't think much about that and I just played my game.
Well, now you're in the final, the first time ever in a smash event. What a week you've had. Final of doubles, mixed doubles, singles. But looking ahead, you've got great opponents potentially in front of you of either Wang Yidi or Sun Ying-sha. Tell us what you think about them in the final.
这个比赛你也是打得非常的好，你3项都进了决赛。那明天即将对战孙颖莎或王艺迪之间的胜者，对明天的比赛有什么样的期待吗？
我觉得不管跟哪位师姐打吧，我觉得我都全力以赴做好自己吧。
Regardless of who is my opponent today, I think for me it's just to play my best and be myself.
Well, you've had a hot week so far. We can't wait to see you in the final. Best of luck, Mandy.
这星期非常精彩的表现，期待你明天的表现，继续加油。
好 ，Thank you.
That hot week continues. Balls to sign and to send into those adoring fans as Kwaiman continues to make friends, win new fans and conquer new territory here in Singapore. Off that left forehand that served us so well in the course of the semi-final, and ultimately when the chips were down towards the end of that game, that is how she got through. So a fan favorite in so many ways. Kwaiman is through to take on either Sun Ying-sha or Wang Yidi, because that is the mouth-watering prospect we have in terms of our second women's semi-final coming along. Kwai's path has been a remarkable one, knocking out the champion, the world number 2, beating Ju, and then of course getting past CHENXINGTONG, the number 4 in the world. So, who's it to beat against the 21-year-old in a hurry? Is it going to be Sun Ying-sha, who has not dropped a game thus far this week, or is it Wang Yidi? Well, you don't have to wait long, because that is coming up next.